I'm Miwa Messer. I'm the producer and host of Poured Over, and we are live from our store on the Upper West Side with Catherine Newman. And Sandwich is out in paperback. It's been out for, 3 weeks. It's a monthly pick for Barnes & Noble this month. But more importantly, it really started to take off kind of the minute it was published last year in hardcover. And I remember thinking, okay, and obviously, we're booksellers. We knew about this. But watching this, after seeing, you'd done some nonfiction, you'd done some creative stuff for kids, you'd done all of these different things, and then there'd been a smaller novel, and then suddenly we get Sandwich. And it's wild, and I'm just wondering, what's the last year been like for you?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and see you all. It's been so great. That's it. It's just the greatest. I don't know. It's when you publish. I published my first book when Birdie was 2, so that was 20 years ago. And my parents were like, "We don't see it on the Times bestseller list. When does that happen?" And I had to be like, "See, mostly that doesn't happen to anybody." And then every book they were like, is it on the bestseller list? Wake us when it's on the best. Wake us when the New York Times reviews it. Wake us when you're writing for the New Yorker. The worst, most pressure-y things. And I was like, I'm writing for foodnetwork.com. That, if you want, I'll send you a link. It was like that. So you can imagine what this is like. My dad is 93. He feels like he stayed alive for this, I think.
Okay, well, thanks, Dad. But more importantly, you've been a working writer, though. I mean,
Yes.
This is the thing. Working writers, words, screen, words, paper. I mean, you were an advice columnist for Real Simple, which that's kind of adorable. I don't even really know what to do with that. We are going to come back to it.
Okay, good.
But, I mean, this working writer thing feels like it's a little endangered. And I say this as a bookseller, so I'm not feeling great about it. But all of these places like foodnetwork.com or foodtv.com, whatever it was, all of these places where you could play, right?
Yeah. You mean there's nowhere to write anymore?
It feels like we're losing space.
Oh, 100%. Yes, absolutely. I mean, magazines were, it was it was like hopping from ice floe to ice floe and magazines folding out from under us, me and other people who were doing what I was doing, except all your alumni magazines, which still are in print and which I'm still writing, and you're welcome for that. Wherever you went to school, I write your alumni magazine.
Well, that actually makes me happy to know that they have someone who's paying attention to, not just the notes that people send. Occasionally I go straight to the back, and it's been a minute since I've been in college. I'm like,
my God.
Who's doing what? And it turns out my class has the lowest participation in the history of the college. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I absolutely recognize that we're the ones where we're like, yeah, no.
No, I can't write in my boastful thing. I can't do it. No, same.
I mean, part of why I bring this up, though, is, again, you have written for little people. You have written nonfiction for adults. You did have the earlier novel. But this book feels personal, even more so than the memoir you wrote about waiting for Birdie, who it's kind of trippy to look over here and see you as an adult. It's a little trippy. But how do we go from all of the work for hire to suddenly something that feels intimate in a different way, feels personal in a different way?
Yes. I mean, I feel like this is such a corny, weird thing to say, but there aren't that many of you, so I'm just going to go for it. But I feel like memoir, you can't be that honest because the people you're writing about are going to read it. And so memoir is really difficult.
Right.
You have to always veil everything and make sure you don't say anything that's too challenging for someone to read. It's not like people will pick through it and figure out which character they are. It's memoir. They know which character they are. You used their real name. And that made me so nervous, and I could only tell partial truths.
Right.
Fiction, I feel like even if some of the stories made up, I can tell the absolute truth about experientially what it's like to be me. Sorry. Yay.
Well, what it's like to be a mom.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, all those things. All the things that are so intimate and hard to write about truthfully.
And sometimes dismissed because
Yeah.
it's the domestic scene, right? Like how many of us have heard, oh, yeah, like domestic novels can be political.
Yes.
Big, sweeping. And I've used this example before in other circumstances, but the opening of The Hours, the Michael Cunningham novel that takes off on Mrs. Dalloway, and we're in Pasadena in the 1950s, and Mom is starting to lose her mind completely, Richard's mother. And that whole, it's probably, I don't know, it's like 25, 30 pages, and you get the sweep and the scope of mid-century America and what it's like to be a woman in a certain segment of mid-century America in like 30 pages. And there are people who get that immediately, and then there are people who are like, why am I reading about this woman having a nervous breakdown in Pasadena in 1955? And it's like, well, hi. Now, obviously, Rocky is not having a nervous breakdown, but she's prickly, which I love. She's very funny, which I love even more. I get that this is an autofiction. But when did you meet Rocky? When did Rocky start for you? When did you decide that you had the right to do or needed to write Rocky?
That's a great question. I mean, Rocky is very close to me, obviously. I know Rocky really well. Sometimes people are like, do you know what Rocky would do if blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Sandwich, I think because it's a couple of different things sort of pressed together. I think that the Rocky character, who's so like me in so many ways, was the easiest way for me to talk about all the things I wanted to talk about in one book. So I feel like there's the like reproductive mayhem and the menopause and the mothering and the being a daughter and being a wife, and I felt like I could get to all of it with that character.
Okay, fair.
Oh, is that not what you wanted me to say? I'll crack at it again.
It's not that it's not what I want. Is
it too easy?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to skirt it a little because it's so autofiction.
Okay.
Rocky is so, that is my voice. That is my list of menopause symptoms I was keeping. That is every single thing I've ever overheard on the beach. Like, it's so just transparently what it is. Like, there's a thing in the book about like these drunk guys talking about a koi pond, and I always feel like one of them, if they ever read it, they'd be like, wow, is that me? Like, I remember being drunk and talking about the koi pond. Like, everything is just from life. Not every single thing, but so much of it. So I guess it's that. And I think partly, maybe this is more of it, but I think to the extent that Rocky doesn't care anymore about people's opinions of her, that she lolls on the beach with her tuna sandwich, scooping tuna off her leg with a potato chip and eating it. That's me writing the book. Okay. Like, I feel very identified with feeling like, okay, people are going to hate this. And, oh, well. And people do and tell me about it at great length, which is so, like, why wouldn't you just put it down? Like, force yourself to read it and then write me about it. Jesus.
Yeah, you don't have to finish books. I say this all the time. You really do not have to finish. And you really don't need to tag the writer.
No, not at all.
Like all of those people who tag, just stop.
Yeah,
just
and
stop.
also one thought you can have is, wow, that book wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, yeah. Okay, but back to Rocky for a second, because one of the things that I most appreciate about Sandwich is her relationship with her husband. Like, clearly still in love. I mean, does not actually want to put a pillow over his face, which I respect.
Almost never.
Yeah, but almost never as close to not. But the relationship is really, yeah, I was in it. I was actually invested in a stranger's marriage. I don't even know how that, testament to you. But it does make me also think we've gone through a moment in books where, and I don't know if this is sort of a reflection of the last few years or if we've just been building to the point where it's like everyone hates being married, everyone hates their spouse, everyone seems to be trying to figure out if they're going to have more than one affair at once. And I say this as a person who's been settled down for a very, very long time, so having the two of them in a really committed relationship is kind of nice and refreshing and wild and totally different.
Isn't that funny? How radical.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It kind of is. I mean, does Rocky exist? Is there a world where a character like Rocky can be... I don't know. She doesn't strike me as a single person. Like, she seems like she's always part of a unit. Like, she was always a daughter first, then she was a wife, then she was a mom. Like, is there Rocky who's just... Sorry. I'm very attached to your character.
No, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking about how first thing I said was like, my dad's really happy. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think you're getting at, in some ways, one of the most fundamental things about, like, femininity, which is identifying constantly through your relationships,
Right.
which I think Rocky absolutely does. And I think it's true. I think she's very irritable and opinionated and moody and in love with her husband, in love with her kids, in love with her parents. So it is kind of all the things.
Love in this book pops up in sort of weird, fun ways. I'm sort of thinking about the toilet disaster and the shower curtain and the black eye and all of the things that come out of that. But you turn all of this kind of domestic chaos and very kind of everyday... Those sandwiches are epic, right? Like, there's a whole story in every sandwich that Rocky makes. And you're funny, too. And part of me is wondering how much of that comes out in a first draft and how much of that comes out of the fine-tuning when you realize, oh, wait, I need something here, or that's not quite what Nick would have said. That's not quite what Rocky would have said. I mean, even if you know Rocky really well, first drafts are never perfect.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, embarrassingly, I do something like an audit for jokes. Like, I read it and I'm like, is there enough stuff in here that's funny? And that's partly because I like to make people laugh, and partly because I'm so afraid that people are going to be bored. And I feel like if it's funny, then at least there's that, you know? And it's a nervous tick to some extent. It's also the way I think about the world. And I was laughing, telling a friend that a couples therapist once said to Michael and me that we used humor as a crutch. And I was like, I mean, it's like our legs. It's not a crutch. It's who we deeply are. We were so offended by that. We never went back. We were bonded forever in our horror at the suggestion that was an unhealthy way to be in a relationship. So that's who Rocky is.
I'm really glad you fired that therapist, because, I mean...
a crutch.
Jokes are good.
We were like,
jokes
it's
are good.
everything. Yeah.
Jokes are really
Jokes are good. But Birdie every now and then, so Birdie reads everything like very early, and every now and then she'll just, like, she'll write lol really small next to stuff, and I'm like, okay. And then every now and then she'll be like, I'm not sure about this. And if it's about a joke, I die of shame and have to be, like, resurrected. It's so humiliating for someone not to think your joke is funny. And the joke is dead to me, and I have to get, like, clean margins around it. Okay. Like, I excise it, like, completely. It's dead to me. I don't save it in a separate document. So it's kind of like that.
Thank you, Birdie.
Yeah.
You have a good eye for jokes. You have good timing. Hello. But... Sandwich is what, 220 pages, 225? It's tiny. and you cover a lot. No, it's
Are
tiny
you
in a
about
good
to call
way.
me lazy?
No. But it is really tightly written. It's a week. Technically, it's a week, right?
It's a week.
Okay. But the amount of time that you cover and the way you handle time, right, and the way we see it, not just through Rocky and Nick's marriage, but also Rocky's parents and her relationship with them, and obviously watching tiny people go from water wings on the beach. I have seen the photos of my brother and I in water wings, to being actual functional adults. Like, I remember my parents being really shocked when we were adult. They were like, oh, you're not actually going to actively attempt to drown yourself at the beach as tiny people are wont to do. I mean, you guys know you're supposed to keep us alive, right? But it's a clever way to look at time because the flashbacks aren't necessarily predictable. They're all character driven, but it feels like you still need a map to do it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you mean to keep track of it?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
I did have to keep track of it just because I don't want to screw up the ages.
right.
Or confuse myself because there's some confusing, like, reduplicative stuff. But I thought if I kept the whole thing to 1 week, then I wouldn't be so
Right.
confused by the flashbacks. Whereas if you're moving through a lot of time, it's also hard to move back through a lot of time. So I had thought about doing it as like one day every year, like July 11th, you know, through multiple decades. And then that wasn't actually, that wouldn't have, I didn't have the skill to do it, A, is the most important thing. And B, it wouldn't have given me what I wanted, which was this condensed thing with Rocky having a lot of nostalgia.
I feel like I got a lot of shorthand. And it's partially because I was so attached to all of the characters. Like, I really got attached to Rocky's kids. And I was a little surprised by that. Because, you know, young adults, they're figuring their stuff out. Willa, though. Willa. Come on. She's...
And Jamie.
and Maya. And... There are people who can't see what we're laughing at. But okay, so obviously there is some real life influence, but that's not the only thing you're working with, though. I mean, again, you made up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But the three kids, they all have their own personalities. They all get to be their own voicey, smarty pants, great real characters.
Thank you.
I'm very fond of all of them.
Thank you. Me too.
But let's talk about their origin, too, because, I mean, you could have had 6, you could have had 2, you could have had 1, you could have... I mean, they all play a role.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I do better with a small cast of characters because there's so many relationships, even as it is, even with very few people. So I feel like the more people there are, the more I can't focus the way I want to on relationships. That's why it's like so tight. It's true about, I've written 3 novels now. They're all like that. There's like a tiny little cast of characters.
Do you have a favorite of the 3?
Oh my God.
No. Okay. You knew I was going to ask.
I didn't.
Oh, come on.
I didn't see that coming. I never would have led you there.
You sure you don't have a favorite? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
They're,
really
you know,
couldn't
they're
resist.
so different, and I have really different sentimental attachments to them in different ways, but I don't think I have a favorite.
Okay.
You're asking about the books.
Yeah.
No. Just kidding.
Oh, not the actual humans sitting in front of us, no.
I was just kidding.
Not even I would get it. There's a Bostonian code of ethics. We're not allowed to ask those questions. We also assume no one will ever answer them.
My dad will.
I really need to meet your dad.
I know, he was supposed to be here.
But let's talk about the Cape for a second, because the Cape is its own character. I think the house is its own character. I think this family in relationship to the place is, I don't see their relationship playing out the same way when they're home, like in their own space. So let's talk about this, because it's not quite a locked room anything, but it changes their relationship to each other, like within the unit. And certainly with the greater world. So vacations, let's talk about setting novels in places where you have a little bit of freedom to roam, but it's not actually, I mean, you're not sending folks to Paris. You're not like, you know, I mean, it's just, it's a lovely sort of repeated behavior.
Yes, that for sure. That kind of house of mirrors, of looking back and back and back and layers, for sure. I mean, I think the compressedness of a small house, the novelist Ruthie Thorpe, who I'm like crazy about, she once, I was going to say she once gave me advice, and by gave me, she posted it on her Instagram account, but I felt like it was for me. She once said that if you're not sure what to do, you should constrain your characters, like combust them in a really small place. And that prompted me in my first novel to have people have sex in a very small laundry room, which was great advice, actually. And then in Sandwich, the house is so small and everyone can hear everything, which I thought was kind of enabling of some of the stuff, because the book's so much about secrets. And then it's like you can't go anywhere where someone can't hear what you're saying or doing. So that's part of that.
Are you outlining the story? You just made me think of something. But are you outlining before you sit down to write, or are you sort of just wandering and then coming back to it and doing an edit?
I feel like it's a trick question. Either answer, I'm going to feel like I'm stupid. What? I have this, because, you know, writers are so weird about, like, whether you outline, like, a lot of real writers don't outline, and it's like, you're so... I'm like so basic, because I kind of outline some stuff. I outline, I know this word because I read a book about writing a novel. Beats. Is that it, Abe? The beats. Like things, like I know things are going to happen.
Right.
And I know roughly in what order those things are going to happen. And then stuff... gets away from me a little bit, you know, and so then I don't follow it exactly, but I have like it's more like a constellation, like a shape of these beats than like a chapter by chapter thing.
That's a really great metaphor, constellation. That really, like, it feels, having read the book a couple of times now, and really at separate, I mean, it was sort of a year between rereads, and coming back to it and being surprised, like, even though I'd read it before, it was like, oh, right, hi, I recognize you folks. And I sort of know where it's going. I didn't remember every single detail, but I was delighted again the second time when I sat down to read it.
Nice.
And I like this idea of the constellation, and I like the idea of just sort of having a rough center, right? Like, this family's love is the center of the whole thing. And then, yeah, there's some wackiness that ensues, because otherwise... well, we would have less of a story. But just watching how everyone does sort of puzzle through all of the secrets, right? And I'm trying, I realize some of you have read this. We were talking about a paperback, and some have not, and I'm attempting to not spoil it for the people who haven't. Because it's all handled so gently, but also... in a way that felt very organic and real. Like, I never felt like I was being handed a plate of jokes. I was kind of like, who are these people and how can I hang out with them more?
Thank you.
Right.
That's so nice to hear.
But it does, again, how much of the writing is rewriting for you? Like, when you get that first pass done,
I write with a lot of momentum, and
Okay.
that's the key for
Okay.
me. Even though I have taught writing a lot in my life, and so I'm loath to come out in public and be like, rewriting's not really my jam. Because I would never recommend that to people. But I have to really work to nail it at the first crack.
Okay.
I don't mean every single thing. I just
Okay.
mean I have to write the story front to back. I have to write it beginning to end. I can't cherry pick.
Right. Okay.
I have to write with a certain, I'm very disciplined about it in a weird way, given the rest of my life. Like, I'm very driven to write in this particular way. And my best shot at saying what I want to say is saying it right the first time I try. And then I can go back and change stuff.
Okay.
Oh,
Yay, thank you. Sorry. I'm really so focused that I keep forgetting the index cards. That we can hold on to. All right, I'm going to come back to this.
All right.
But that is a very good question about epilogues. I want to go back to this working writer, lots of nonfiction stuff that you did, including craft books for tiny people, like how tiny people can entertain themselves, which I love the idea of this. I'm like, do you hand them a crochet needle? Like,
yeah,
what
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's also like a big one, right? And not like, listen, my brother and I, there may have been elastic bands that went flying when we were handling things. But it sounds like a lot of the discipline comes from that. I mean...
Oh, my God, so much.
Yeah, that you just, once you're in the chair... I mean, if you're writing on deadline for a magazine or you're creating... How many books did you write for little people? It was like 6 or 7, yeah?
No, I don't think... Maybe.
Was it more than that?
No, fewer.
Oh.
I don't know. I wrote, maybe 4.
Okay. But still, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
You have to... I mean, obviously, you're writing for an audience that is, supervising tiny people. It's not necessarily the tiny people, but it is a mindset that maybe you don't get with fiction, because fiction, you're just sort of sitting down to tell the story, yeah?
Yes.
But you kind of hand it off to the reader and see what happens. But when you're talking about a prescriptive piece of nonfiction, it's kind of a different...
Yes.
It's an entirely different animal.
That's true. It's true. I mean, I wrote a lot for Family Fun magazine, which I'm sure none of you have read, but I wrote for them for decades.
Okay.
And that was like if a fizzing bath bomb exploded under your Christmas tree one year, that was my recipe, actually. And Disney it was when Disney owned the magazine, they had to set up a hotline about it.
Wait, you made a bath bomb? It was a recipe for a bath bomb?
People did not make it the way I had told them to, is what I'll say. But yeah, it was like a holiday gift, and it was a fizzing thing, and you were supposed to use oil of vanilla, but if you used vanilla extract, which is what everyone has in their house, it would, if you capped the bottle, explode, say, on an airplane or under a Christmas tree or...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you not want to hear more about that? Because I have a lot more.
I'm just glad. I'm just glad it wasn't me making it.
Yeah. Yes, I wrote tons of this stuff, tons of it, tons and tons and tons. The kids remember because our house was filled with fun stuff, and I was like, "Don't touch that. It's my work." Yeah. But it made me disciplined. It's true.
Sandwich in your earlier writing is about finding joy and pain. We are switching gears for a second here. And helping our kids navigate a joyful but broken world. Any tips on finding joy and parenting through things getting worse and more scary?
Oh, my God. I mean, that's a great question. I think it's kind of split for me. I mean, parenting, it depends how old the kids are. But, we've had a lot of family joy and activism. We like to go to a rally with our obnoxious signs. That gives us hope and a good feeling. So that's, a good parenting thing. And, I mean, I do think just splitting your time between the resistance and, living in the moment, because who knows, right? You might as well. There's really no other moment to live in.
The next book. There is a new book coming in October, y'all. Can we talk about it a little bit in the context of
Have
Sandwich?
you read it?
I have not yet.
Okay, good.
I got
yet. Really nervous for just a second.
Waiting. Yes, see, I just got a, no, it's not ready for outside eyes yet from your editor. So I will trust her implicitly. If she says I can't have it yet, I can't have it yet. And I don't want to talk about it sort of outside of, now you've had Sandwich. Sandwich has been successful in a way that the other books were
not.
Okay.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah.
It probably was. It's just, But how does it feel to know that this next book is coming out sort of hot on the heels of everyone saying, hey, Rocky's my girl? Nick is a husband we could keep around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking. I think I almost can't quite talk about it because I'm so delighted. It's been such a wild ride. I almost feel like it'll be fine, whatever happens. And I think there's some possibility that all the people who hated Sandwich and made themselves read it are going to read this one too and hate it just as much and let me know in long emails. And I feel somewhat immune. It's okay.
Wait, long emails, not DMs on actual long?
A mix.
Okay.
I have a website where you can fill out a form if you want to contact me. And boy, people have stuff to share.
They could start book clubs.
Start
a book club. Highly recommend.
I'm going to say that. Start a book club. Yeah. Anyway, all of which is to say, I don't know. I feel like I have the best. They're here, but I have the best team in the world who's so supportive, and I just feel like whatever happens, I don't know. It'll be great. It's going to be fine and good. I don't have that thing of I'm sure people wait for you a little bit to fail after you've been successful because that's Schadenfreude and everybody has that. But I feel really lucky and excited. I don't really know. I'm a lot of different things, but that's one of them.
Wait, can I ask you, you wrote a piece for the Boston Globe when Sandwich was coming out.
What did I say?
Yeah, well, it's right in front of me because now I have to ask because you've got the 5 stages of publishing a book, which are preemptive shame, panic, horror, retroactive shame, and envy.
Okay.
And since we're coming, I sort of want to use this as a leaping off point. What's with the shame part?
Oh my God. Wow. We had really different childhoods. The shame part. Here's the shame part. And okay, poor Jisses, this does not get back to my parents, okay? But and bless her, I'm sure meant well. When my first book came out, my mother, who is English, would leave messages on my answering machine. I'm not kidding. This is back when we had an answering machine. We'd come home, I'd hit play, and she'd say, I thought you should know that I went down to the Crown Books on 60th, and they didn't carry Waiting for Birdie, and when I asked them about it, they said they weren't planning to. Anyways, just FYI. And there'd be 11 of these messages, and I was like, it's so awful. Just the feeling of the slow death of a book not doing that well. And it did okay.
Right.
It didn't do badly enough for me just to be deeply humiliated and take to my bed. It did okay. Some people read it, mostly people hadn't heard of it. I don't know. So that's the shame, is bracing yourself for that. for people being like, I don't know, I looked for it, they didn't have it, they weren't interested in carrying it, or I don't know, or an event where like just your college boyfriend who thought you were a loser comes, just him, which happened to me in Philadelphia in 2005, stuff like that.
Little stuff.
Little stuff like that.
Okay.
And just the feeling of letting people down where, you know, where someone will be like, oh, you know, the numbers aren't what we were hoping.
Right.
And then you're like, sorry.
Okay.
TMI, sorry.
No, I'm going to plead the bookseller fifth. I have had these conversations.
Okay.
But I love the way you just make a joke out of all of the stuff that's like profoundly kind of other people. No, I wouldn't. Well, not humiliating is not the word I would use. There are other people I think who would skirt the issue and maybe choose not to talk about it. But that's part of why I love Rocky so much, because she's just out there saying all of the things and not apologizing. And it's a delight, because usually that's, you know, you're either allowed to do that when you're 80 or you're allowed to do that when you're a 12-year-old who sounds like a 40-year-old. And here we've got someone who's age appropriately saying, no, really? I feel like she's walking around with a raised eyebrow all the time, which I appreciate.
I'm glad.
I mean, I recognize a little bit of a kindred spirit, but where do you... I mean, does Rocky come back at any point for you, or are you sort of done with this story? Or does she come back in a different form?
She comes back as herself in Wreck in the next book. She is just...
Oh, huzzah.
Yeah, it's her
Huzzah.
and them, and it's some more of her weird mental processes. That's my elevator pitch.
You know, having read Sandwich, it works, but we might want to noodle that a little bit.
I was just thinking that.
We might want to noodle that a tiny bit.
Mental processes.
Her voice is great. I mean, her voice is just, it's so clear and it's so refreshing.
Oh, thank you.
And she's just very prickly, which, can we have more prickly women, please? Sarah, please. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I think that we're just women who aren't one thing, which is what I love in books that I read, is the, you know, somebody loving who's like got a lot of other qualities as well.
Can we talk about literary influences for a second for you?
Yeah.
I think you're reading for character and language first. That's kind of my guess, that voicey things are the things you want to read too.
That's true.
Okay, so...
I wouldn't have known that, though, if you hadn't said it. If you'd asked me, I wouldn't have been able to say that.
Oh.
No, but it's true.
Huh. That's kind of trippy. What are some of the influences on Sandwich?
I mean, so many influences. I read a lot. It's funny. I was more thinking about Rec. I mean, they're so similar in a lot of ways. But I've been when I was working on Rec, there's a lot of body stuff in Rec. There's a lot of body stuff in Sandwich too. And I feel like I'm a disciple of Samantha Irby, who writes about the body, and she's so funny. She writes about the grossest things. Like, most of her memoir is about like her diarrhea and her like IBS. And she's so funny that you don't even quite realize that what she's doing is just being like the most generous person in the world.
Right.
That what she says a million times in a book is, however gross you are, I'm grosser than you are. However much shame you have, like, I'm in it with you. Like, it's so incredible. So I turn to them and read them, like, not for pleasure, but just for, like, craft. Because you can almost miss it. It's so brilliant. So I feel like I'm a sort of body disciple of hers. And then people like Ann Patchett. I mean, you know, Lily King, like people who are writing sort of character-driven narrative in that way. I just read, I I know this isn't what you're asking. Like, what did you just read? But I just read. Did anyone here read Small Rain by Garth Greenwell?
I did.
Jesus.
Those are cut glass sentences. He's doing stuff in that book where it's just like,
God. And again, a book that's autofiction. It's called a novel, but I think everyone has their real life names. And it takes place in a hospital, like over a week with a mysterious illness. And Rec covers some of that same territory, so I was super interested to read it. And it's just incredible. It's very philosophical. And I don't even understand how he gets away with that in a novel like that. It's so good.
He writes on a sentence level that not a lot of folks are doing right now. And I need great sentences. I'm one of those people where I'm like, okay, stuff happens, okay, you know. I really, really need great sentences when I'm reading. And I wouldn't say I'm quickly pulled out, but I notice when I can get knocked out of a story really quickly if the sentences are not great.
Same.
And I'm just kind of like, Because for me, I mean, the interiority when I'm perfectly happy watching stuff, whatever, but the interiority of a novel, to me, always comes back to the sentences. And there is no voice without great sentences. Like, there's a voice, sure, but is it a great voice? Is it a sticky voice? Is it the kind that sort of tattoos itself on the back of your brain? I really need great sentences, and I need the sentences to sort of be a little bit firecrackery, a little bit fireworksy. I need them to be that good.
He's a poet, right?
I think he started as a poet,
I mean, come on. We can't really do anything with that.
But you do it in Sandwich. You really do. Because I think the dialogue, if I think about how the dialogue is always moving forward, it's almost like reading a play a little bit. And I'm wondering how much of theater is sort of influencing you, or are you just taking notes in the world when you're... Because dialogue is not simple. And it's really, really actually hard to do well and make it sound organic.
I take a lot of notes.
Okay.
And also because the characters are at least based on people I know so well, I really hear everybody's voice the whole time. And I can't quite imagine writing without that. Like, I would like to write something that's not autofiction, but I can't really picture it. We'll see. It might happen yet.
You have time. You have
Thank
time.
you.
You have time. Question, though, from the audience about writing an epilogue versus ending the story just on a timeline.
Why that?
Yeah.
I want to ask Sarah if it always had an epilogue. Did it? I can't even remember. I feel like maybe it didn't. Or did it? No, it did, but it was shorter. Didn't have the prologue. I ended the logs. I had to include a prologue and an epilogue.
So the prologue didn't exist in the first.
It's true.
Okay.
It didn't. I don't know why the epilogue. I think partly because I felt like I was cheating because the 1 week was so strict. The being in the house Saturday to Saturday, that's so Cape Cod. That I feel like if you then just have another chapter, it didn't make good Cape Cod sense.
Okay, that is totally fair. That is totally fair. I was wondering, though, if it wasn't because you wanted a little more time. I realize, again, we're talking about characters who are based on real people, but that you didn't want a little more time in this world.
Oh, you mean I was like,
maybe I could get like another little,
Oh, like I just was like, I'm
do
done,
get off,
and then I get
off,
back.
We do get off the Cape for a minute in
I
that
know.
epilogue.
That's such an interesting and kind of crazily sweet idea that I just was like wanted to be with them a little more. I don't know what to think about that. It might be true. Like I think I pictured ending it on the last day of the Cape.
Right.
So I did surprise myself a little bit with that. I'm not sure what to say about
That's totally fair. Easier question. How did you settle on sandwich? Because I'm guessing you guys are sandwich visitors. How do you?
Well, see, not exactly.
Okay.
Which was sort of awkward. I did a big event in Sandwich, Mass last year, and I had to sort of fudge and hedge a little because they were like, "It takes place in Sandwich, right?" And I was like, "I mean, the Cape. It's everywhere. It's all the towns."
It is, honestly, it is, but don't ever say that to someone who lives down the Cape. They will have
They're very
big feelings about it.
particular about which parts of the Cape. It's really mostly Wellfleet, but yeah, and then the sandwich generation, and then all the sandwiches. But I had lied all on tour the first time I had said so. People would say like, "Oh, is it always called sandwich?" And I was like, "It was always called sandwich." And then I found the document I'd sent Sarah, and it was called the Department of Total Loss, or maybe I only sent it to Jen, and was it sandwich when you got it? So the working title was the Department of Total Loss, which is when my
Very
friend...
Laurie Colwyn.
Oh my God, right?
Very Laurie Colwyn. Very not you.
Well, it was this thing. My friend totaled her car, and they sent her, the insurance company sent her to the Department of Total Loss, and I just loved that existed.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
that's so good as just a thing, like the Department of Total Loss. Come on. But then it was not the right vibe for the book. And then sandwich, we weren't sure about because it's not like a very optimized search term.
There's
if you
that.
plug it into Google, you get a lot
there's
of
that.
Subway and stuff. And I think we weren't 100% confident about it. But then, I don't know, it was like it had been called that. It's like when we called our kitten Tiny, and then it got big and fat, and then we had already started calling it Tiny, so we called it Tiny. I feel like we called it Sandwich for long enough that we were like, okay, that's its name.
It made perfect sense to me. I mean, before I looked at the flap copy, I was like, oh, of course. Sandwich generation, because so much of the bulk of that work, all respect to the men in the audience, the bulk of that work does fall on women. It really does. And so I was just like, oh. And then you get funny on top of it. I mean, I was expecting sort of the gentle melancholy kind of Ann Packer, Ann Patchett, just based. This is solely judging a book by its cover. It happens. We do this. And then I start reading, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a riot. What is where am I? What is happening? These people are really funny. Dad's really funny. Mom's really funny. Nick and Rocky separately and together, very funny. The kids, all very funny. I mean, the kids are not letting their parents get away with anything. I'm like, I wish I'd been like that at 22. That was not me. We have a definite pub date, too, for Rec, don't we? It's October.
October 28th.
Okay. So we can be patient. I mean, it's really not... I mean... My sense of time has gotten a little funky. I mean, time moves now in ways that... When did that start happening?
I don't know. I know they study it because it has to do with your aging brain, and it's something really frightening. I had this moment where I would thank the person we were buying our Christmas tree from. Sorry, this is so like Jews buying Christmas trees, whatever. It is what it is. I would thank the person we were buying our Christmas tree from, and then I would thank her and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm thanking you again. I can't believe I'm thanking you again. And it was like we were there every second. I felt like I was in a horror movie. I felt like we were arriving buying a Christmas tree, and I was thanking her like every 5 minutes. And in fact, a year had... it would be a year later. How crazy is that? And then you have to say something about it like you have all the other times, which only makes it worse. Where you're like, I can't believe I'm thanking you again. Has it really been a year? And then you remember that you said that same thing a year earlier, which feels like yesterday. Sorry. Here's the deranged part of the evening. A little overheated.
Elderly HVAC system. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. It's just my own creation.
And this is a really fun question, though. I wonder if a thread in your nonfiction and fiction is Oh, giving sorry, I should be wearing glasses. I am not.
Someone has cheaters
Yeah,
you could borrow.
nonfiction and fiction is giving recipes for people about how to live with ingredients for relationships, creativity, caring, and humor, other than wreck and crone and other than wreck and crone.
Crone sandwich.
Crone sandwich. Sorry. Are you thinking of making anything else? Oh, that's your Substack. Sorry, I was like, wait a minute. What am I missing? Are you thinking of doing anything else? Like what are the side projects? Do you get to have a side project while you're finishing edits on a novel, though?
You do.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
I don't know. I have like other things I'm making notes about. I'm not really sure if it's a side project though, or just the main project.
Okay.
Who really knows? I've always wanted to write a cookbook, but now that desire has sort of passed me by. I used to really I pitched a cookbook and they were like really interested and then decided it wasn't for them, and then that was that.
But you could do like one of those Laurie Colwin kind of
I know,
novel and
but
cookbook.
she already really did that.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I mean, there's space for other people.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We have to get Rec out into the world first.
Yeah. We'll get Rec out. I want to learn to draw. I know this is what hobbies are you hoping to pursue, Catherine? Well, I'd like to learn to draw. I really would like to learn to draw and paint. I just feel I have this thing, and maybe it's because writing, I often write stuff, and I'm like, that is what I wanted to say, which is an amazing, I know I'm so lucky to feel that way. But when I go to draw something, it's the opposite. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like a severed arm came in and drew its own thing. And I would like to see something and draw it. So that is not too much to ask.
It's not, but I can't do it. So I'm gonna stand in the corner and go sell some books.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please. Actually,
I will.
I really do want to hear about this. But you know what? I have to let you sign some books now.
Yeah, okay.
I really do have
All
to
right.
let you sign some books. We could keep going, but
thank you.
this was great. Catherine Newman,
Thank you
so much for joining us on Poured Over.
Thank you so much for having me.
Give us
Thanks,
2
you
seconds.
Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.